Hello, welcome to Network. My name is Spumelele Zondi with your technology and social media news. Now remember, to be a part of this conversation, you can hashtag us. We're on SABC Network. You can also find us on SABC Network. Now that's on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Here's what's coming up in the program. We went to a conference that discussed the technical side of events. We will find out how MasterCard plans to do away with the bank card PIN numbers. Our guest is Seth Mbele from Digital Voodoo. He will be discussing cyber attacks and cyber ammunition. Hello, Seth. How prevalent is this?
It is actually very prevalent, and a lot of organizations aren't telling us how prevalent it is and how it affects them.
We'll find out more about that later in the program. Let's first start with the technology news. A conference for people who work on the technical side of events took place in Johannesburg recently. They discussed some of their challenges. Delegates from different parts of Africa.
On the floor, on the bed.
When you attend a conference, a live show or an expo, you'd realize that there's music, lighting and other technical structures. In fact, most events can't happen without much of that.
This events sector contributes a minimum of 5% to the GDP, which means we are forced to be reckoned with, which means skills development needs to happen. There are many youngsters out there that don't want to be doctors, don't want to be lawyers, and there is a need in our sector for sound engineers and lighting engineers.
When you have programs like maybe a conference or a concert and it goes on well, they enjoy, it's nice, it's perfect, but a lot do not understand what's happened, how it's been put together, what's made it glue together to make a great show.
So those who are involved in the technical aspects of live events met in Johannesburg to discuss what their challenges are. The Live Event Technical and Production Conference had attendees from different parts of Africa, and they shared their experiences.
So recently we had the Pope in the country, so we had to produce that show for the Vatican. So we had multiple locations and have set up platforms for about 100,000 people to actually see the Pope and feel it. In the same breath, we had an event where Obama came through, former President of America came through, and again, similar thing, big head of state, thousands of people want to meet him, multiple locations, so he's doing conferences and meeting all sorts of people, again, supporting that kind of event. On the music side, we had huge artists like Boyz II Men have come to the country, and Diplo, and now we've got Damian Marley coming next week, and we've got Chris Brown has been in the country, so to support all these kind of activities.
The meeting is with the hope that solutions will be found to solve many issues encountered in the entertainment technology fields.
These are 21st century in demand technical and production skills, and then we have to expose and create opportunities for our young people, because they cut across. They don't only relegate you to work only on events, even in Parliament. Even now, as we're talking, it's technical production skills in action. You see, so there are enormous opportunities for our young people.
This conference is the first of its kind in Africa. Africa has a lot of sun. The continent also has major electricity shortages. So renewables have become an option that many are talking about. In the next insert, we meet a Cameroonian who has decided to teach young people how to install solar panels.
29-year-old Bolivie Wakam has made it his mission to train young Cameroonians how to install solar panels. Having studied renewable energy in Italy, his initiative comes as a rescue to the people of his community. Considering that Cameroon is a country where electricity supply is either too expensive or out of reach.
Nous alimentons directement à côté de l'utilisateur.
This energy is sourced locally, meaning we tap into solar energy to power the panels. So what we have here is an independent system that uses a battery charged by the sun, which then powers the panels, and the advantage is that the solar energy does not pollute the environment. It's clean energy and it's renewable. Renewable sources of energy can be used over and over again, and people do not need to pay for the electricity. It's free.
Le mois, donc c'est gratuit.
Wakam's Africa Tech Solar has so far installed solar-powered streetlights, multimedia installations, and a water purification plant in Batofa. Access to electricity has changed lives here. Business and learning can go on longer, and people can now use computers. Over 60 people from Batofa and surrounding towns have been taught about renewable energy and trained to assemble and maintain solar panels.
J'aimerais que d'ici 3, 4, 5...
I would, in 3, 4, 5 years, like to see the majority of Africans having this solar kit, especially in rural areas, because those are the areas that are the most affected by a lack of electricity.
Disons que qui sont plus touchés par les eaux souillées.
Wakam is also teaching basic computer skills as part of the training and hopes one day Batofa can be a technology hub.
We hope that the number of readers will increase because the children can go to the library after school. We never used to have power at the library, so the solar panel will allow many children to read till late and expose them to different cultures through the books they read.
I used to see this type of equipment, but I did not know what to use it for. Today, I can tell you that I'm able to install a solar panel and assemble a solar lamp.
Over 60 people from Batofa and surrounding towns have been taught about renewable energy, trained to assemble and maintain solar panels.
Google Inc. will be making its digital assistants available on the iPhone, and bike-sharing apps are bringing fierce competition in China. These are some of the tech stories that made tech headlines in the last week.
Alphabet Inc.'s Google said it will be making its digital assistant available on Apple Inc.'s iPhone, making a play for the higher end of the smartphone market and challenging Apple's Siri feature on its own devices.
Humans are interacting with computing in more natural and immersive ways. Let's start with voice. We've been using voice as an input across many of our products. That's because computers are getting much better at understanding speech. We have had significant breakthroughs, but the pace, even since last year, has been pretty amazing to see.
The assistant debuted last year on Google's own hardware, and the company has gradually extended the tool to devices from other manufacturers running on its Android operating system. Now off we go to Iran. With the presidential election only a few days away, the campaigns of both Rouhani and hardline cleric Ibrahim Raisi have launched a social media free-for-all unprecedented in Iranian political history. Whilst the rest of the world debates on social media as a source of fake news, some Iranians strongly believe that social media is a reliable source of their presidential election campaign.
Social media provides us with more accurate and reliable information. The range of information available on social media is wider, therefore it's better and it does not support any special person.
By far the most popular social media outlet is Telegram, a chat service that is a niche player in most Western countries but has some 20 million users in Iran, according to a report by the Iranian Students News Agency. Great news for soccer fans. The World Cup is set to take place in the hot desert of Qatar in 2022. The organizing committee has announced that the Khalifa International Stadium in Doha is now open to the public. The stadium, originally built in 1976, has been expanded to seat more than 40,000 spectators with a cooling technology that keeps the pitch at a maximum of 26 degrees Celsius and around 28 degrees heat in the stands. Now off we go to China. Bike-sharing app Boom brings fierce competition, floods of bikes to Chinese cities. With just the scan of the bike's QR code with a smartphone, you can jet off for a ride that costs just 1 yuan. It can be picked up and dropped off anywhere.
You know, Ofo and Mobike are kind of the two biggest players. They've taken the biggest investment. They're maybe the most visible, but there's nothing that really differentiates any of these companies from any of the other ones. So it's hard to say anybody's really doing a better job.
Private bike sellers in Beijing have also taken a major hit to business. Zhang Lijun, who has owned a chain of bike stores on the outskirts of Beijing since 2005, said sales had dropped by 1/3 by March in comparison to last year.
After the break, we have Seth Mbele from Digital Voodoo. We will be discussing the WannaCry malware. Stay with us.
So from Port Elizabeth, I eventually left there, joined the circus, as you know, and travelled. I was a singer, I was a race car driver, and I wanted to see what my chances were in America. So I started off with MTV, and I started producing music, because I was in the music business, you know. So I started producing musical acts with Black Sabbath, Guns N' Roses, Motorhead, and I became Wine, Women and Song. That was my life in Hollywood.
A pioneer, a Crystal Award recipient, Basil Gold is a force to be reckoned with. For more inspiring stories, stay tuned to Pilong every Friday.
At SABC Network, now that's on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. You can also hashtag SABC Network. Now the WannaCry malware infected a lot of computers in various places around the world. WannaCry was very quick. It didn't even need you to click on a computer link for your PC to be infected.
A major cyber attack, WannaCry, hit more than 300,000 computers in 150 countries. A cybersecurity company, Kaspersky Lab, announced that it is the biggest cyber attack in 2017. The WannaCry virus encrypts data on a computer, asking the users to pay a ransom of about 4,000 Rand. Although WannaCry mainly hit computers running Windows operating systems, other devices were not immune to its threat.
There's so many other malwares that could be attacked at Windows 10, it could be at Mac, it could be at the connected medical devices like pacemakers, for example. So these types of hacks are out there, available in dark web, deep web, that anyone can buy for a few $100 and start this type of an attack.
Many South African employees were greeted by emails warning them not to open attachments. The malware had already affected automakers Nissan and Renault, logistics giant FedEx, the UK's National Health Service and other companies, and hospital computer systems in countries from Eastern Europe to US and Asia. 22-year-old cybersecurity researchers slowed down the WannaCry ransomware attack from spreading in the UK. Meanwhile, cyber experts are still looking for codes to track down and stop the WannaCry. They advise everyone to update their software and not to click on unknown attachments.
To further this discussion and to discuss cyber ammunition is Seth Mbele from Digital Voodoo. Hello and thank you for being a part of our network, Seth.
Hi.
Now, what is cyber ammunition?
Basically, cyber ammunition is a specific type of software that is used by, whether it's hackers or whatever, to get into a particular system and to make it behave in a way that is not expected by the user.
And in the WannaCry case, how many countries were infected? Who was infected?
WannaCry was a global infection, mostly in Europe, but also the second wave was hitting major parts of Asia. It affected, the numbers that we're looking at is 200,000 organizations. That's a lot of computers that were not able to be used during the attack.
I'm not hearing you mentioning the African continent. Does that then mean that the African continent is safe from being attacked?
I think in this particular case of WannaCry, because it infiltrated systems through the internet, I think that might be one of the things that was a bit of a saving grace, the lack of networking of computers on the continent. But we do have a major issue when it comes to the type of software and operating systems that a lot of, especially public sector government organizations are using.
Have there been problems with those public sector and governments and other organizations?
Not that I've heard of, but we do know that a lot of government institutions use Microsoft-based products. And this attack was very specific to Microsoft, especially the older operating systems like Windows XP, and those especially that have not updated their viruses and their software updates.
So what was so different with WannaCry? Because there have been other viruses in the past, but they've never been on this massive scale.
So the thing that made WannaCry very specific and big is that they targeted big organizations and they sent the virus specifically in their direction. That's number one. Number two is that this is a specific type of malware called ransomware, where they demand money to then unlock your system. So they'll take your files, encrypt them, and you can't access your whatever files you have. We had the health system in the UK was shut down basically by this ransomware.
It's been solved. So does this mean that it's the end of such attacks?
This is definitely not the end. This is the first big one, and there have since been other waves of ransomware trying to do a similar thing to WannaCry. So the software manufacturers are working at quite a pace right now to put out updates and to make sure that people are updating their systems accordingly.
When something like this happens, how do you then ensure that as an organization, and perhaps Microsoft itself, how do they ensure that their users are safe? How do you ensure as an organization, a user of Microsoft products, you are safe?
The only thing that you really can do is to make sure that on your end, your software is as up-to-date as possible. So when you get a notification that there is an update or security patch, you need to install that security patch. Don't think about it, don't delay. That's number one. Number two, from a software perspective, those guys at Microsoft and other antivirus companies are working quite hard to be shipping out as regularly as possible updates and virus definitions.
Is there anything that they could have done to prevent it from happening?
There's nothing that they could have, well, they could have built better software, but Microsoft allegedly was charging people to fix the problem when they could have shipped the solution quicker. So they could have made the spread of WannaCry a lot, it wouldn't have been as big if they'd just given people the updates up front, but they were charging upwards of $1,000 to organizations to fix the problem, and that's not the right approach. The right approach is that you find a problem, it's a problem with your software in any case, you ship the update as soon as possible.
Now this is Microsoft specific. If you're not using Microsoft, are you ever safe?
Look, you're not ever safe, but just purely because of the number of people that use Microsoft, hackers will always try to go for that platform. You're a lot safer on Apple, you're a lot safer on open source Ubuntu and the like, Linux, because the user base is just much smaller. So if I'm going to spend a lot of time creating a virus, I want to make sure that I infect as many people as possible, and that's usually the Microsoft community.
And who does this? Who would sit creating a virus, sending a virus out to organizations?
So usually, viruses are usually hackers that are just trying to disrupt the way that organizations or people behave. This one in particular, because it was ransomware, it was people trying to make money. So they are literally holding your information at ransom and they want cash. So those are the type of people. This is like cyber crime in its by its very definition.
You did mention that if you're using Linux, if you're using Apple products, you are safer. What makes them safer?
Like I said, what makes them safer is the fact that they've got a smaller user base, number one. Number two, it's software that is maintained largely by a community. So there are people that are part of the community that are self-updating and making sure that everyone is safe. Whereas Microsoft is a very closed source. The only updates can come from Microsoft themselves.
So Microsoft should possibly think of opening it up?
I don't know if that's part of their business model. You know, that's not how they monetize, but they should probably think about how to offer faster support and how to fix issues when they crop up.
We do know that it was solved by a particular 22-year-old and who pretty much saved organizations from all over the world. Who often solves these? Can governments solve it, or would it be individuals like this particular person who then come up with solutions?
Usually, look, I mean, governments usually don't hire the type of people that can solve this type of problem. The young man that you're talking about is a cryptographer, so he works in a very specific subset of information and how to store, etc. So those types of people are usually, there's not much scope for them to be in the government space. So the private companies, security analysts and the like are the types of people that will save us in the future.
Seth Mbele from Digital Voodoo, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right. Now, we caught up with Mubango actor Raphael Griffiths, and he told us what his favorite piece of technology is.
Oh, hey, I tried opening with my key, but it won't turn. Well, I had the locks changed from Elazama. No, I don't even ask her.
Hey, my name is Raphael Griffiths and I cannot live without my cell phone. It's a Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge. I know there's an S8 now, but you know, I'll upgrade later on. I can't live with it because not only do I make phone calls, not only am I on social media, but believe it or not, I do my invoices on my cell phone.
After the break, we find out how MasterCard is planning to go pinless. Stay with us.
The Law Society has slammed notices sent to 4 universities to jack up standards or risk losing their LLB courses. The Council on Higher Education issued a stern warning to the universities to conform within 6 months.
I think it will affect the university. I think outside the law faculty, there's a funding issue.
It's been 112 years since Enoch Sontonga died as a relatively unknown composer, choir master and teacher. But today his legacy lives on through his greatest composition, Nkosi Sikeleli Afrika.
For all your news updates, stay tuned to Your World from Monday to Sunday.
At SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Find us there. Now, MasterCard has piloted the biometric card that combines chip technology and the fingerprint. Victor de Kock from MasterCard South Africa showed us how this card works.
So the card that we've launched locally has got a biometric card reader on the actual plastic itself. What we do is on enrollment, elements of the fingerprint are put into a sort of digital format on the card. It is not an image of the card, it is an algorithm of the finger, so the concerns that people have in terms of can my fingerprint be replicated from that card are completely unfounded. It's stored as a series of zeros and ones on the card. So the fingerprint or the algorithm is then loaded onto the card. When I arrive at a merchant and the amount is given to me, I, by putting my finger on the card reader, am authenticated that this is Victor who's standing in front of the merchant, and the transaction is then approved through the normal processing channels that transactions go through today, without the merchant having to invest in additional infrastructure and incurring costs. So the testing went significantly better than what we were expecting in terms of the approval rates. What does happen in cases where you, for instance, might have a plaster on your finger or a cut on your finger there and the fingerprint doesn't read, the card will fall back to the PIN methodology and the transaction gets approved.
Now, this week on Twitter, we've been asking you if you think mobile games played by children should be monitored. Now, 77% of respondents say yes. There's 12% who say children shouldn't be given phones. In last place is 11% who say no, they shouldn't be monitored. And that's all we have for you. Find us on SABC Network. Now that's on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Use network at sabc.co.za and email. We leave you with visuals from the Emoji Movie Festival that premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. From me and the rest of the network team, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to introduce you to all the cast of the Emoji Movie. In addition to celebrating the 70th anniversary of Cannes Film Festival,
can you please do us the honor and launch the trailer?
You guys want to see it?
3, 2,
1!
It's a feel-good movie. It was so funny, it's so cute, it's so relatable. You go, oh, I know that one, I use that one, that's my favorite emoji.
Oh, snap.
What is this place?
The greatest place ever!
Hey, here we come! We're doing it! Look at that! We're doing that one! Yeah!